If you flip through old photography magazines, like these ones from the early 1990s, you'll see a lot of familiar names. But rarely will you see this one. It's only ever buried in the far back, where photography tips and tricks stop, and stores' catalogs begin. And it's only ever under this section, video. Unlike most other camera brands, Sony didn't get its start in film photography, or even still photography. Which is why when the company releases something like the RX1R III, something feels off. Last week when I received a review unit of this camera, which was expertly wrapped, nice. I happened to be attending the Newport Folk Fest. It's a music festival that is so steeped in legacy that it sells out before a single act is announced. People of all ages just want to be there, no matter what music is being played. And it's exactly the sort of place you want to bring a camera like this. Something small and light that you won't feel on your person, but you know will be able to capture the essence of a place. In the case of this camera, that means a 61 megapixel full-frame sensor, a fixed 35mm f2 Zeiss lens, and Sony's latest autofocus system, all built into a tiny 1.1 pound or 498 gram body that can produce the stunning images we have come to expect from Sony. And new this year are film presets. They give you different options when it comes to saturation, contrast, and general feel of your photo. And since you have a full-frame sensor with 61 megapixels, the camera can crop that sensor to simulate having more lenses. It simulates a 50mm equivalent and a 70mm equivalent with the touch of a button. But as you've heard, this camera's expensive, and it has some not-so-flagship Sony features. First, it uses a smaller MP-FW50 battery that is typically reserved for Sony's APS-C cameras, and can't make it through a full day. Like, I was so worried about this battery at the festival that I kept the camera off until I was ready to take a photo, then I'd quickly turn it on, snap the photo, and turn it back off again. And then there's a small, low-res for its cost, EVF, that isn't comfortable to use for long periods of time, and had me wondering if things were in focus. In a fixed rear screen that will have you taking photos that aren't straight on, blind. And that's not even all of the trade-offs within this camera, it's just the ones that I noticed in my time with it. Here's a list of the ones that other reviewers have noted. But the larger problem with this camera is its huge price tag. I'm really struggling to see how Sony landed on that number, especially considering the lack of a story this camera tells. More on that in a moment. This is my favorite backpack. This is the 30-liter Desert Brown Element Camera Backpack from Compangnon. I carry so much gear, but I also have a pretty small frame, which means that most camera bags look like this on my back. Until this guy came along. It's got clips and pockets for days, a roll top for infinite storage, this very strong yet simply magnetic buckle, a laptop sleeve, adjustable dividers, and it's all wrapped up in a recycled weatherproof nylon material that looks pretty damn sleek. I love this bag. I'll link it down in the bio, and you can use code BECCA10 for 10% off your purchase. People have many different reasons for buying cameras, but one of them is undoubtedly the history they hold and how that history affects the way they use that camera. Take a Leica, for example. Its iconic shape, the sound of its shutter, even the look of its logo, transports you to a different time and inspires a different sort of photo taking. The same could be said for Hasselblads. When I see that traditional boxy design with a huge lens on the front, I think of Apollo 11, when they took a Hasselblad to the moon.
That's one small step for man,
and shot some of the most iconic photos of space.
one giant leap for mankind.
So when you buy one of those cameras, you're of course paying for specs and quality materials, but you're also paying a lot of money for the legacy, the history, the brand identity. And in a way, that's pretty priceless, or at least the companies think it is. And most folks won't bat an eye at these exuberant price tags. But when it comes to Sony, I don't think about paying for its legacy, and I don't think of history. I think of innovation. Sony might have gotten a later start to making cameras, but they've made up for lost time with firsts. The world's first compact digital stills camera with full HD video capability. The world's smallest and lightest digital camera with interchangeable lenses. And then the world's first full-frame mirrorless camera with interchangeable lenses. And the world's first full-frame camera with a global shutter. This is a company that for the last few decades has been squarely focused on innovating the space, making smaller, lighter, more capable cameras, which is why the RX1R III feels so strange. It's Sony fast and capable, yes, but it has this old battery that can't make it through a day. And it's small and light, but at the cost of not having a better, bigger EVF or a tiltable back screen. And it's expensive, but it doesn't feel premium. I mean, the hot shoe cover is plastic. You could have made that something better. And it's nice looking, but no one is going to be wearing this around their necks like a Leica. So not only does this camera not fit the Sony story, but it doesn't really have a story of its own either. Every bit of it, just about, exists in other Sony cameras. Let's go shopping. So the RX1R Mark III has the same sensor as the Sony a7C-R. Bada bing, $3,000. And the RX1R Mark III has a fixed 35mm lens that's an f2, which is very close to the Sony 35mm G Master f1.4. Now this lens is a little bit bigger, sure, but optically it's a great lens. People freaking love this lens, and it's $1,400. Let's buy it. So all of that with tax is $47.47. But hold on, because you could save even more because all these things have been out for a while and you should buy used. You could get a used Sony a7C-R for $27.49. Add it to cart, baby. Let's look at the lens. Close to $1,200. Add it to cart. $4,200. And if we price out the RX1R Mark III with tax, $5,500. Oh my God. So that extra $1,000 plus that you'd pay for the RX1R Mark III buys you what? A smaller camera that you can't change the lenses on? Which I get, like that is a great thing to have. People love point and shoots, but it just doesn't make sense to me here. I do think there is a camera that Sony could make and sell it for $1 gazillion and everybody would pay. Sony, bring back the VX1000. Sony's deepest roots are in video, specifically camcorders, which are video cameras for the masses. And the VX1000 was a wildly popular camcorder, especially amongst the skateboarding community. But if Sony put a new battery, new EVF, new screen, you know, a better sensor, and then put those like sort of camcorder presets in it so that you can get footage that looks crappy or footage that looks good, and then if Sony brought all of that tech the next year and put it into like this sort of handycam body, you know, with the flippy out screen and the little viewfinder, and maybe the barrel would have to be bigger because the sensor would probably be larger. Oh my God, just take all my money, you know? Let me reel it in now. This video is about the RX1R Mark III, and I think the other thing that this camera touches on is something I'm seeing in the larger photography camera creating community. All these flowers smell so dang good. Oh my God. Oh, not so much that one, but I promise you, others have. Every camera manufacturer is now able to make a capable camera for the masses, which is why the most sought after cameras in 2025 have been the unique ones. Something that feels different and produces an image that all the other cameras don't. And that kind of puts Sony in a funny spot because, as I said, their deepest roots in the camera world are in video, and their story has always been about innovation. And I'll be interested to see how they change that story now that innovation has slowed. As for the RX1R Mark III, that camera's gonna be just fine. There are plenty of Sony fans that will shell out a ton of money for it, and it truly is a very capable, tiny camera. It's great if you're going places that don't allow quote-unquote professional photography gear, because it technically is a point and shoot. And the batteries are small enough that carrying an extra one isn't a deal breaker. Plus, the images, they're sharp, the film presets provide some pretty sweet coloring, and of course the autofocus is incredible. It's just that personally, I can't get behind shelling out a whole extra $1,000 for size alone. All right, so let me know what you think of this camera. You've heard enough of my thoughts. I'm Becca. If you like this, subscribe to Me in the World. I appreciate you so much, bud, and I'll see you on the next one.